Oh, hello, there's somebody going on. Jeff, are you there with us? We had a great introduction and you missed it because I had the mic.
Yeah, you had it on mute right there, but yeah, I'm with you guys.
There you go. You are ready to go, sir. I appreciate your help on APRS over Vera HF. Take off and roll, sir.
Okay, will do right there. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. And certainly as I come along in this presentation, because I'm not there in person, I normally encourage people in the middle of the questions. That's not as convenient to do today, but at the end of the presentation, I'll leave plenty of time. So write down your questions and we'll go back and forth and answer anything that you may wonder on this particular topic. This is actually one I've presented before at a few other places. And the first and foremost issue with HF APRS is it's nothing really new. HF APRS has been around since the 1990s. It was done very soon after VHF and UHF APRS became a thing with Bob Bruniga and many other people. And I've got 6 points here that pretty much sum up the first generation HF APRS. First of all, it works some of the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. More often than not, the conventional AX25 over 300 baud packet modems just don't make the connection, and I'll explain that in a second. The conventional HF APRS requires a high signal to noise ratio, sometimes comparable to HF voice, which when we're starting to talk doing digital, because digital has better characteristics to be able to operate at lower signal to noise ratios, that kind of runs counter to that. The technology is also very old. The Bell modem standard that was established for 300 baud packet, which is the same one for 300 baud modems, was delivered in the 1960s, 1970s. And that modem technology was designed for high reliability and low noise telephone circuits. It was not designed for going over HF, where you have fading and signal shifts and all those other things that happen that we're familiar with. And the real nail in the coffin for 300 baud packet modems is there's no forward error correction. Even a small disruption destroys the integrity of the data packet, and you just get nothing. You just get no information that's usable, and you're stuck. So first generation HF APRS that started in the 1990s, the analogy I use is it was like watching paint dry to ever be able to see people pop up. Since then, there have been some improvements in radios. There have been some improvements. The modems today are no longer hardware modems, they're software modems. So there's some things we've done to improve HF APRS on 300 baud packet. It still goes on quite a bit in the 30 meter band, but it's real difficult to get good connections with it, and it's difficult to see other stations. In contrast, there is an item that many of you are familiar with. It comes from the WinLink side of the business, and it's called VARA HF, or VARA was what it was called when it first started out. And it was originally developed for use in WinLink. It was not developed for anything else. It was developed to be a modem for WinLink. And it has a variable speed depending upon signal to noise ratios. And the lowest speeds that it operates at give us a full 15 dB lower than voice signal to noise ratio. So the reality is it's a superior modem. It has a lot more features to it. It was designed in the 20 teens, so it's relatively new technology. Has a high amount of forward error correction built into it. So even if a package of data gets interrupted, it has the ability to self-heal and take the packet that's been sent and rebuild the data set so that even if there is an interruption, which we get, static crashes, CMEs, and all those fun things that come along and decide to interrupt our HF bands. And like I said, it's got a long track record with WinLink. It's proven itself time and time again as a very, very, very reliable modem. So starting just a few years ago, the author of VARA HF added a KISS port to the software. Reason this is important is the traditional VARA used WinLink protocols for its connection. So it worked really good with the WinLink software. It handshaked and talked to WinLink very well, but anything outside of WinLink, it was not compatible with. So starting, like I said, just a few years ago, the author added a KISS port, and KISS, if you guys are familiar with packet radio, is the Keep It Simple Stupid protocol. And essentially, KISS is a standard that allows APRS software, packet software, any of the traditional things that we're familiar with. It allows it to talk directly to the modem at a very low level. And so that's important because conventional packet radio had the TNC, terminal node controller, had a bunch of hardware built into it, a bunch of software built into it, had a whole overhead of a system. And that's great if you are living within the 1970s technology that's there. But if you want to do new and different things, KISS is really the way to go, where it allows you to talk at a very basic level to an external modem. All the existing APRS packages have support for KISS over IP. And that's important because what we'll be doing is we're going to be using this KISS protocol, but we're going to be doing it over an IP connection as opposed to a COM port connection. We're not connecting to an old packet modem or doing anything of that sort. We are going to do KISS over a network address. And so with this new KISS port that was added to VARA, that new KISS port suddenly opened it up that allowed it to do a lot of other things that it wasn't capable of doing before, with a lot of other software packages that it couldn't talk to before. And one of those packages that became very, very attractive for it was any of the APRS packages. So you marry it together with an APRS package, and now you have HF APRS on steroids. You have a very robust modem that really, really, really just does amazing things compared to the conventional HF APRS that we were used to dealing with back in the 80s and 90s. So that being said, a lot of people are going to ask the question, you talk about the theory of this, but how do I get started? And by the way, this presentation, I will be sending a copy to your fearless leader, who will then in turn be able to make it available on your website. So you don't need to write down all this information. But the first thing that you're going to do, and especially if you have never been involved with WinLink, chances are you don't have the VARA HF modem. So the first thing you're going to do is download VARA HF at the link I've shown here. And with that, you have the ability now to download the software and get it on your computer. So that's the first step that you're going to do. I also highly recommend Pinpoint APRS for beginners. If you've never done APRS before, Pinpoint is a really good package that is very user-friendly. It doesn't have some of the other features that other packages do. So if you're an expert user, you may have your own version of APRS that you prefer. That's fine. But if you're somebody who's never done APRS before, Pinpoint's a really good package to get started and do what you need to do in. So that being said, when you load up Pinpoint APRS for the first time, and I'm going to do a demonstration in just a few minutes to show how to do this. When you set it up for the first time, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up the TNC options to have a network KISS mode TNC, which means that your TNC is not a hardware TNC. It's not a COM port TNC. It's not Cantronics or other brand TNC. It is a network in KISS mode, which is the simple way to operate. And then you're going to tell it at the bottom of the screen that the TCP IP address is 127.0.0.1, which is your personal computer. And then you're going to tell it to connect on port 8100, which is the default KISS port for VARA HF. So essentially, if you are doing APRS and you are familiar with connecting to TNCs, connecting to sound card modems, things of that sort, it's very much the same things that you do to connect to sound modem, all the other packages, except now you're going to point it towards port 8100 on VARA, as opposed to pointing it to sound modem or pointing it to your Camtronics TNC. So it's fairly straightforward. You tell it at this point, go to network KISS mode, connect to VARA. And then on the VARA HF setup, it's really simple. You go in, and the first time you ever set up VARA, you put in your call sign and very default information for the first time run. And then it has default settings that it just carries all the way through. The first thing you're going to do in VARA is you're going to hit VARA settings, and under VARA setup, if you look on the screen here, the fourth box down says KISS interface. And what you're going to do is check that box and say KISS interface. Now at that point, your VARA HF becomes a KISS modem, so it will not interface at that point with WinLink correctly. So when you check this box, make sure to uncheck it when you go back to using WinLink later. It's kind of a toggle on and off to how you want to use VARA. So you'll basically go into the setup screen, do this. You'll go to the other setup screen that's in Pinpoint, as I showed earlier. And now these two packages are married to each other. They are now communicating between the two. Once you get all that done, then you're going to hang out on a frequency. And the real popular hangouts today on 20 meter are 14083.5, on 40 meter 7083.5, and that's all upper sideband. So you're either going to manually set your radio, or if you have a remote software, you'll go in and punch these frequencies into your remote software. Bottom line is your radio has to be on 14083.5 or 7083.5 upper sideband. So that gets you to a point where this is real, where now you're able to actually operate. And what I actually have operating in the background here, if you take a look, is I actually have the HF APRS software operating at this very moment on another computer. You'll see my little station out in the middle here. A few minutes ago, I had a station out in California, I had another station in Arkansas, another station up in Idaho, and we were chatting back and forth quite a bit. So when you actually start this software, there's an item called options, says you can't do that. So there we go. But if you look over at the TNC settings, network KISS mode, which if I hit the drop down, you'll see it has everything for Kenwood radios with the TNC built into it, has the serial KISS mode and everything else. It even has the ability to connect to a Yaesu FTM 400, but we want network KISS mode is what we want. And that immediately then makes the network KISS TNC settings important. So you go down here, you punch in the address, you punch in the port, and you're good. Once you get the software running, what you're going to do is you're going to connect to the TNC, quote unquote. So we're going to disconnect it because we were running earlier. You're going to say connect TNC. And when you do that, you are now connected to your VARA HF application. Now, every time you beacon, that application is going to transmit over your HF radio. So in this case, we're going to create a situation for it to talk to somebody, and we're going to send a message. So I've got a message I just typed up. And at this point, I'm going to hit the send button, and you're going to see the VARA TNC over here is now transmitting that message. If I look at the communication monitor for this software, it actually says, hello again from Oklahoma for test. So I just sent out a message over 40 meter VARA HF to the station in California. And just for everybody's information, prior to the presentation today, I actually wrote many messages over to various people, like for example, KI5FA over in Arkansas. He says, hear you in Central Arkansas. This was about 8:30 this morning. I had a message acknowledged out of the Idaho station. I had multiple messages acknowledged from a station that was in the Los Angeles area. And then I can even look at the messages I sent to people. And hello again from Oklahoma for test. There was a ping that I sent to somebody, another ping to somebody else. And then perfect, send you some messages around 9:30 as part of presentation. So I've got all of this information for my messages in a nice little log here. But anytime I do something to send my beacon my position or anything else, that modem will kick into gear. So if I say send position beacon, that's something we do on a normal basis. I'll say send position. If I look at the modem, you'll see at this point, it's actually sending my position out on APRS. But it's sending it on VARA as opposed to conventional 300 baud packet. And while all that was going on, I went up to the site that is for APRS that collects all the data for APRS. And there's somebody, okay, that echo went away, good, all right. But if you look at the APRS FI site, and I'm actually gonna refresh this, you'll see all those messages that I've sent have been picked up by an iGate somewhere on 40 meters. So I'm getting out. People are hearing me. You can actually see some of the responses back from the other station. And I can go back and look at my status here. Look at my map view. There I am right here on my computer. Go back to information. It says I'm running pinpoint version 2. And it says 48 seconds ago, I sent my position report. And then I actually have stations that I've heard directly. And there's even apparently a KK6 SVV-10 that picked me up around 9:48. So you know, there's plenty of people out here operating on 40 meters and picking up the various items that I've got. Looks like the last path it went to was this guy, so I'm going to see if I can send this person a message. So we'll go over here and we'll say, send a message. I'm going to hit send. You'll see that it's actually sending that message. I haven't got any acknowledgement back from them yet, so. AJ5FA, message to him. Just literally in the last, I'd say 15, 20 minutes, we did see the 40 meter band dropped quite a bit. As you guys know, we still have the after effects of the CME that happened the other day. So that band has been kind of up and down. But like I said earlier this morning, I was making contacts out to Idaho, contacts out to California. In normal band conditions where we don't have a disruption, you're going to get very, very good NVIS capabilities with 40 meter band in particular during the day. And during that time, I typically see stations up in Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Texas pop up on my map. So the neat thing about this, if you actually look at the position reports that it received, let's see here if I can get those to show. Whoops. The station that I made contact with, I'll actually pull up the internet here. The station that I actually made contact with over in Arkansas, KJ5FA, was 210 miles away. The station out in California, I believe, was right around 1,200 miles. And in fact, this station right here that picked me up, they're actually over in Del City, KK6SVV. And what else do I have here? Let me find my California station that I was talking to earlier. KF6NYN. There he is. He is, according to this, 38 miles northwest bearing from Oxnard, California. So if you guys know that area out there, he's not too far from Bakersfield, about 80 miles from there. And these are the various stations that he's heard directly on the radio at his location. I believe he's -10. So let me go back here to, actually he's -15 on that one. So let me look at -15 real quick. There he is, -15. And he's actually in this WinLink report that's up here. Interesting. So his WinLink station actually distributed through his regular gateway out in California, through his -10 gateway, which is pretty neat. So I'm gonna try to send him another message, see if there's any chance that he still can pick me up. And he was, let me try to get the right call sign on this. I'll cut and paste it from there. -10. There we go. We hit send. You'll see the modem is now transmitting again.
They had one of the sports personnel people that it's not on Channel 9 News. And he runs my.
So I haven't seen him come back to me yet, but we'll monitor for a little while. It sometimes takes a little while for him to come back. But while we're talking here, I'm gonna share some of the examples that have been done by a station up in Michigan. This is actually WA8LMF's homepage, and he gives a pretty good rundown of how does HF APRS work over the VARA modem. And he talks a lot about the technical part of it, of all the different symbol rates and how they operate. But basically, he tested VARA as a replacement for the conventional AX25 packet on 60 meters HF. He had two Yaesu FT891 transceivers, one at home, one in the car, and he basically went driving. So this is him driving from East Lansing to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And the one thing you'll notice is his path is very line driven, meaning it doesn't even sometimes follow the road, because he gets one beacon here, then he doesn't get another beacon until he's almost 2/3 of the way there. He doesn't get another beacon until he gets into Kalamazoo. So the reality is, for basically a 2-hour trip, he got 3 or 4 packets probably out of literally dozens. On the other hand, running right in parallel with it was the VARA modem, and you see these little red dots all along the way. This is all the places that it beaconed at, and he was able to pick it up very well through the entire trip. Followed the actual road, didn't make lines on all he was doing. As you notice, you compare this map on the top, this actually caught him driving around Lansing, whereas this one did not. It didn't pick up till he went down here. So clearly VARA does a lot better job than the 300 baud conventional packet does. He also did some further testing going to Chicago. Once again, the regular conventional packet modem. On the other hand, now you're running with VARA HF. There was a little break between Charlotte and Battle Creek, but then he was solid all the way into Chicago, into the metro area. And VARA continued to receive reliably long after the AX25 started failing. So Steve Smith had some really good experience with this. He uses, for his tests, he uses 60 meter, but many of these same things are true on 40 meters. The two bands have very similar propagations. And like I said, it just works. It does a really good job of covering you as you're going over a particular distance. And I haven't seen anybody ping back to me yet. It's always good to have somebody who pings back for the demo, but I don't think we're going to be that lucky today. But like I said, the setup, the software is very straightforward. I've got VARA HF running in the background here. And as you can see, it's set up to, if I go to the VARA setup, it is set up to be a KISS interface, and it is set on KISS port 8100. You'll notice the conventional ports are also set up for WinLink. But as soon as I hit KISS, basically WinLink doesn't get access to this. As soon as I turn KISS interface off, my VARA HF modem will go back to being a WinLink modem, and it won't do APRS anymore. So it's pretty straightforward to set up. It's fun to experiment with. Today being kind of a bad band condition day, I don't have as much opportunity to ping other stations out there. But normally I would have stations up in Kansas. Even the station in Arkansas would be a pretty easy hit. But for whatever reason, 40 meters has changed drastically in the last few minutes here. So I'll go back to the presentation itself. And if you're looking for additional information regarding HF, APRS, and VARA, first place I would go is the Facebook group, and it's called VARA APRS. So if you go to Facebook and say, show me the VARA APRS group, you will see a group pop up on your screen that looks vaguely like this. It's got the VARA modem waterfall, VARA software with a VARA APRS listed. Currently, there's about 1,500 members worldwide, so it's a pretty active group, and they post about a lot of things. And one of the most popular things to do is post, when you took this thing portable or mobile, how did it track? This was a gentleman that did Van Island up by Seattle, drove mobile, looked at his trackings. There's just people all over the place that are doing various things with the software. See, here are some of the tracks that we saw. This was the gentleman that did it over in Japan, and he operated on 20 meters. And then this was the one that was done up by Vancouver, near Seattle area. You see, you're getting lots of granularity in your track points. I never get that type of granularity when I run 300 baud APRS. Generally, it's anywhere from 40 to 50 miles between each ping because it's lucky whether or not you make it out or not. It's very, very hard and difficult to do this. And mind you, this is with a mobile antenna that he's getting this type of experience with. If you start talking base operations, longer dipoles, things of that sort, things get a lot easier really quickly. And so point being is that this is something you can use as a tracker in a mobile operation, but you can also use it as a base station to communicate with others with messaging. And bottom line is all of your items that you're used to doing on APRS are available to you on this. Messaging, telemetry, all that good stuff. But go out to that Facebook group if you want to learn more about what is VARA HF all about. There's another great site. That was the one I just showed you, the WLMF.net site. And that gives the examples of real life operation, gives you lots of ideas of what to play around with this mode. Like I said, it does a really, really good job getting out. Some other things I'm going to add in here just to the presentation. For those of you that have never done sound card modes, going to talk a little bit about what you need to get started. So if you've never done this before with your HF radio, you need a signal link, rig blaster, MFJ. Repeater Builders makes the DRA interfaces. DigiRig makes a really great interface. Or you need to buy a radio with a built-in interface like the FT991 or the ICOM 7300. Those type of radios all have built-in interfaces to them. But the bottom line is you need to get a keying circuit. You need to get something that allows you to interface your computer to the radio and get started. As the newer radios are having this as a standard feature, not so much of a need to go back and buy the signal links and other interfaces. But if you have an older radio, this is your gateway to getting on the air with digital. Something I always talk to people about is audio setup is king. If you're going to do work on HF in particular, the biggest issue people have is overdriving. And it's not just a fact that you're not going to be heard, but you can actually cause harmful interference to other people on the band. So set your radio to full power, set the volume controls to minimum on your sound card, and then turn the LC meter up on the radio. And then you adjust your drive on the sound card so that the ALC is just barely showing. If you don't do that and you overdrive and have your ALC kicking in excessively, you'll actually end up creating sidebands and other items that are artifacts that go well beyond where you're operating on the frequency, and you can interfere with voice communications. You can interfere with other digital stations. You're going to make life miserable for anybody else that's trying to coexist with you. The audio setup is very important. After I covered all these things, and there will be question and answer time, I've left plenty of time for that. But after this, if you still have questions or you don't think about something until much later, there's a plethora of places to go. First of all, you can send an email directly to me with questions, and I'll address those questions with a return email. There is the Rogers County Wireless Association Facebook page. We talk a lot about these technologies. It's another good place if you just want to throw up a post and say, hey, I'm trying to do something here. Is this possible? Or I'm trying to troubleshoot something. Can somebody help me? Tulsa Digital Radio Club Blogspot is also a good place to hang out at. It's an older site that's not currently updated, but it's got a lot of good information about getting started on digital. The Oklahoma ARL for NTSOK gives you a lot of good pointers on how to make sure that VARA is set up correctly. There's a lot of online discussion groups on io.net. There's a lot of other Facebook discussion groups, and as you saw, I shared with you the VARA APRS group. And I'll throw it out there for anybody here. If there's enough interest, we can start a Tulsa or Oklahoma HF APRS net. So if there's enough of you that want to get on the air and we want to on a regular basis get together, I'm all for that. In addition to all this, all that's kind of, behind the keyboard. Some people work better via voice. The Oklahoma link is available for your guys' use. We have a Sunday evening net at 8 p.m. And then Mondays at 7:15 p.m. we have the Oklahoma Voice over IP net, and all of these items shown on the screen are ways to get here. So if you have a hotspot or a Wires X box, you can get to us. You can get to us on Wires X room 28292. If you have a hotspot, you can go to 19053 for the YSF reflector. DMR TGIF has us on 31403. Our P25 reflector is 31403. Our NXDN is 31403. So you have any types of radios that are going through your hotspot, you have a whole bunch of ways to get to us. If you have a D-Star radio, you can go to XLX OKLB. And we also have the newest digital voice mode M17 on M17 OKL module A. So be sure to check that out as well. Bottom line is you can get a hold of us there. And then, of course, all of you guys that are analog only guys say, well, that was nice. How can I get you on analog? Well, we have the 147090 repeater in Claremore, which is probably a little bit far for you guys to hit. But we also have All-Star 49562. And that Echolink link is wrong. It's not WX5RC anymore. It's N5XQK-R, and I'll correct that in the presentation. But you can connect via Echolink, or you can connect via All-Star, get into our nets, ask questions, what have you. In fact, we just had the Maury TechNet on Thursday night. We connected in via Echolink, and that's going to be an ongoing connection between us. So if you participate in the Maury TechNet, feel free to connect in, and you'll get a hold of the same people in this area of the world as you do in that area of the world. So that is the end of my formal presentation. So I've left plenty of time here for questions. I know this is a lot of information if you haven't done it before, but at the same time, that's the reason I leave time up here for everybody. And so I saw some of the questions that did pop up in the chat, so I'll answer those first. Are these available in Windows and Mac or Linux? Okay, to answer, the APRS softwares are available in Windows, Mac, or Linux. However, VARA is a Windows-only software. There are some people that are running it under Wine in Linux. However, I'll tell you up front, I've done that. It's fairly unstable, meaning that if you leave it totally, if you don't babysit it, it will occasionally give you a weird error and crash and do some weird things. So it's not really stable to do for like 12, 18 hours at a time. If you just want to do it for fun and you're really watching it and you want to reset it every time that it crashes, you probably can run it on Wine, but it's definitely not it's not for prime time on Mac or Linux. There was another question that was asked: when you ping another station, does that show up on their software? Yes. And can you send a message and will it be held until they activate their software? No. The message will go in to the APRS FI servers. It will go into the central servers that serve APRS. But if they are off the air, they will not get your message. And if they're not on the air, they just won't get the message. So it's important to ping to somebody that is on the air and reachable. There's not really a store and forward in APRS, so to speak. It is very, very, very live. And to that end, what I recommend to people who are using this in communications is, if you're sending a message that is intended to go to somebody that may or may not be on the air, send it over WinLink. WinLink is intended for that. WinLink is send a message to somebody that may or may not be on the air. If you are in a real-time situation where it's more what I call push-to-talk real-time, that's where you're going to end up using the messaging in the APRS software to message somebody else. So this is really intended for practical communications, immediate stuff, whereas WinLink is intended more for store and forward, send it to a server in their convenience, they can pull it up. And it also would mean something that's not super critical as far as time is concerned. Other questions that the group may have, I'll open up to everybody right now, people in the meeting room or any place else that have questions. Feel free to come forward with your questions at this time. Not hearing any questions at this time, but I also believe the meeting room is muted. So I don't know if anybody in the meeting room has questions. I'll defer to Mark. Has anybody there raised their hand, or is anybody wanting to ask questions? And even if there are no questions, Mark, go ahead and confirm that there's no questions in the meeting room. Either type something in the chat or come on here real quick.
Hello. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Too much analog mess up. It's, you know, if this was digital, it all looked great.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, Zoom is digital.
Yeah.
I want to expand on that last question. During the presentation, I sent you an APS droid message to AE5ME-10, and I'm trying to figure out how that would get to you with it, since you're real time. Is there a way you can pull those, or it'd be in a mode to pull messages? How does that work, or doesn't it?
Okay, well, I'll explain is what it would require is a two-way gateway running on HF APRS, which there are a few of them that are out there, but it would require a two-way gateway to transmit the message to where I am right now. The other way that I can get your message, if you send it on an APRS droid, and let me go over and take a look on APRS FI. Let's see here. We'll put you in AE5ME-10. Whoops. AE5ME-10. Search. Messages. Yeah, it actually came across on the APRS FI servers. If I connected my station to the central servers on the internet, I would get it coming directly across my station. It would not go over the air. It would go over the APRS internet servers. So I'm purposely not connected to the internet right now because I'm strictly doing HF. But if I turned around on the software, which let me minimize this.
That's cheating.
That's cheating. Exactly. That's
okay,
exactly.
So there is no way, like you said, the store and forward is not there, but
Store and forward's not there. It either goes or it doesn't on the whole thing.
But unless you're connected to that two-way gateway, there's no way to get in and off the APS droid to your system unless you're connected to it.
Well, if there is another gateway in my area on HF that is doing two-way APRS traffic, then I would get it. But I'll tell you honestly, most people don't run two-way on HF. They run one-way, which means what I send out goes into the system. But very rarely do we pull the stuff out of the entire system because you and 20,000 other people will send information into there. And if we're not careful, it's the same reason you don't run two-way gateways on VHF, because if you got the entire world coming across your gateway, it's very hard to operate that. There are some people that do filtered gateways where they only pass the stuff through that's local to the area. And that would be another way to approach it. But generally speaking, not a lot of people run the two-way gateway. So to answer your question, no, in most cases, it wouldn't come across.
Good. I couldn't figure out a way that would work, but that's a good deal. Anybody else have a question here in the room? They all are setting up there. I can see they're all going to Vera HF and downloading the software on their phones, right? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've all brought their HF ready. Anybody have any questions locally? Anybody? Mark, oops, Clayton does. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, this is Mark Clayton, N5AZQ.
Yeah.
I do a lot of FT8, so I've done the Vera HF. I've just never done it with the APRS turned on. But
yeah,
it should be fairly easy to do since I'm already doing FT8 anyway through, and I use a Yaesu 991A anyway.
Yep. Yeah, you'll
all
be
the
very
time-
easy. Yeah, very easy for you to get set up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all the time encouraging more here in our club to do FT8, so, they'd be easy, once they set up for that and it's working, they should be easy to set up for the APRS, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and the big advantage I'll say that this gives to you is if you have a portable laptop or even, as you know, you on the VAR FM side have used those the little cube PCs or even the compute sticks, it looks like a USB stick, but it's really a PC. If you put those in a mobile operation, you can run these things as a tracker. And one of the things that we talk about locally in the Tulsa area that is always a concern when you're covering a large area with APRS is you have to be within range of a digipeater. And as we do like the bike event that's over the Dam Jam bike event, that covers such a large area that there are areas that they do not get to an APRS digipeater on. Well, with this, because you can use NVIS with it, you basically use your antenna on your vehicle. When you start now going to NVIS, you could now get out 50 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles, and be able to still see your trackers out there. So the advantage that it gives you in an NVIS application is you don't have to have a whole digipeater network in order to get out to the mobile and portable stations. And by the way, it can be done portably. I actually took one of the handheld HF Moxon, I think believe made them in Japan. I actually took one of those and actually transmitted through it using a very small compromised antenna, and still was able to, 75 miles out, had no problem on NVIS making it back to my base station. So it's definitely something can be done portable as well as mobile. And certainly if you're set up at a base camp, so to speak, where you've got a loop antenna or even a dipole setup, you're going to have good success with it. That's a given, but it's something to consider to increase your footprint from what you can do on conventional VHF, UHF, APRS. And if you're doing an event that's, let's say, would expand out 100, 200 miles, it may be the only way that you can pull in APRS data effectively. Because I know, for example, when I drive to Joplin, Missouri from Tulsa, once I get past the Keatonville APRS digipeater and start getting more towards Pryor and Veneta area, as I start getting in that region, all of a sudden I disappear off of all the APRS servers. They don't see me anymore because I'm in an RF hole over there that doesn't have any eye gates or anything going on. Can I answer your question, Mark? And you're still muted. You're still muted, Mark. I'm not hearing you come back here.
Hello. Well, we'll try.
There you are. You're back now. I can hear you. I can hear you now.
No, yes, I got Mark's question, and everybody here has gotten what they need, which is scary. They actually learned something from a presenter. I'm pretty happy. Good job. I know I'll set up what they set up for Vera FM on a mobile system. The differences on, just to be clear, that guy, the 8 call.
And you just dropped off again. I'm seeing other people moving in the background, so I think it's we lost Mark there for a second, but I heard the 8 call, and then you dropped on audio.
There it is. What's it going on?
There you are. You're back again. You're back.
The 8 call guy, he was doing Vera versus 300 baud fixed packet. Is that the difference?
That's correct. That's right.
They're both HF. Okay.
Yeah, both HF on 60 meters.
Charlie, hang tight, Alpha Delta Zero, Whiskey, good morning, Frank.
Oh.
North Dakota, nice day here, about 50.
Remember.
The, 67 high today, 10-mile-an-hour wind.
So, Mark, any further questions?
I got none, yeah, I got audio, look at that, I've got none, anybody else in the room got something since I did the last deal? I'm gonna say thank you very much, no questions, we really appreciate it.
Okay, I am gonna leave you guys with some bonus material. I'm not gonna go into depth with it, but it was something Mark had asked about. And I'm just gonna give you a link of where to go, and it's called APRS link. Those of you that are on WinLink and want to find another way to get into WinLink besides the conventional methods, you can get in there with APRS link. All you need to do is go to winlink.org/APRS link, just like I've got shown on the screen. And if you punch that in, it will give you all the instructions of all the commands you send via APRS. I certainly would not try to read a long message with this. It's really intended for short stuff. But if you need to send a real quick message, you can actually use your handy talkie, mobile rig, etc., and punch in a short message and actually send it via WinLink. And it will go through your WinLink account. You have to log on, do some stuff like that. But the bottom line is, yes, there is a way to do WinLink via APRS, and that is where the instructions are on the internet. So a little bit of bonus material today. Otherwise, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's time. And I'll hang around for the rest of the meeting right here because I'm always interested in how other clubs run meetings and stuff. So if a question comes up later, feel free to contact me. Otherwise, you've got my email address, AE5ME@yahoo.com, and I'll feel free to contact me anytime. And with that, I'll stop sharing the screen. Over to you, Mark, from here.
Oh, there we go. Kind of this audio is bouncing around for some reason. Must be a thing in the computer. I will post and share what you sent me, the presentation. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
All right.
Break.
Take 5 minutes.